quit your W-2 job to pursue real estate investing full-time? This is the question that we are going to be answering today. Joanna is going to be coming on, an investor who did quit her job to pursue real estate investing full-time, and she is going to take us back to the beginning and talk us through the mindset and her experience and hopefully answer that really popular question. All right, here she is. I'm going to add you on now, Joanna. Should be able to accept the invite that I sent. Let me know if you can't.
Hi.
Hello.
It was really close up.
I know. I'm sorry. I normally warn people. I forgot to warn you. It does. It zooms in.
No, that's okay. I set my little thing up. I normally have like my computer and webcam, so I was playing with the whatever this contraption is called with the pretty light, but it was far away. I wasn't expecting that. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
You're just doing
I'm
one
excited.
podcast after the other. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I probably should chill out. I don't know if you do this, but last night I was laying in bed and I'm like, oh, I should have said this. And what if I said this? And I forgot to, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's, yeah.
When does your one that you did yesterday come out?
I'm not sure. I hung up like as soon as we got off the phone, I ran and picked up my kids. So I didn't ask. But
Well, I am so happy to have you on today, and I know everyone's here and like dying to hear about the answer to the ultimate question of if they should quit their W-2 job. And I was just telling them before you hopped on that you are a successful investor and you are literally so inspirational. I'm so happy you came on today. I'm so excited. I don't know if you can tell. But you quit your job to pursue real estate investing full time.
I did.
That's amazing. And you just had to take a moment there just to appreciate that. Can you take us back to the beginning of kind of like tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, of course. Sorry. My eyes are probably really red because it's spring in Georgia and the pollen is really well, first, let me start with saying, Miranda, thank you for inviting me here. I really feel honored. And also, I love watching everything that you do, whether it's your posts, your stories, your lives, and taking the initiative. I was telling my other friend, Miranda, who I'll mention in the story, today we were on the phone and I said, you've got to follow her. One, she lives in Roseville in Northern California. And also just, you're very young, and the initiative that you are taking to interview others, to educate is really inspiring. I think oftentimes I don't know, I'm just very, very impressed with everything that you're doing. And I think that is going to continue to bring you a lot of success as you grow your network and your portfolio. So I want to start with saying that.
Thank you.
And yes, I did resign from corporate America, and it was a long time coming. I guess, where should I start? So I shared this story yesterday, so it's kind of funny. I'm like on rinse and repeat, but I'm a little bit older than you are. I'm 38. I'm 10 years older than you are. So I don't know what going through the 2008 crisis felt like for you, but I had graduated from college in 2008, which was the worst possible time to try to find a job and do, whatever they said we're supposed to do, right? So I sold everything I had and I went backpacking, and like just was this nomad. This was before the internet. Like I didn't have Instagram. I didn't do anything. Like I had like a map, like a paper map. I'd write people's emails on there and I would just like figure it out. So I did that for a minute. I did that in large part due to some significant loss that I had experienced. One person in particular, my mother, had passed away after 2008ers. Sorry, I'm like reading the comments, but my mother had passed away and I was in a really dark place. Like I myself probably would not have survived if I stayed in Sacramento. Anybody who knows me from Sacramento between like the years 2001 to 2008. Like, I'm sorry for anything I have said or done. With that, though, really, it catapulted me into the unknown. And so traveling, etc. And that was a really great experience. I talked a bit about that a little bit in the podcast with Olivia Tati, which it's the Wanderlust Wealth
Oh, yeah.
show. Yeah, so we talked about that, and I love everything she does because it's a travel and real estate. But
Yeah.
um, eventually, it's like, okay, well, I can't travel forever. Or at the time, maybe that was my limiting belief. I'm like, how can I travel
Mhm.
forever? Because eventually, like, I ran out of money, and I'm like, oh, this really sucks. So I started applying for jobs. I landed at Enterprise Rent a Car. So if you've seen, like, they always make fun of it in movies,
Yeah.
the tools to be your own boss. But it really did equip me with this skill set that going through like their whole management training program. I met my husband, like half of my friends, we all met there. We're still in touch. Some of which, like David Khadijah, we would go to like Elite to eat dinners, and now he's really big in the syndication space. So, um, yeah, I continued on this corporate path because that's what, they globally, people, said you got to do that. And everyone thought that I had lost my marbles when I was traveling. So I'm like, well, I could try something else. But yeah, when you're working 6 days a week, 60 hours a week, making $32,000 in San Diego in Southern California, it's really shitty,
Yeah.
and it was really a struggle. So
Oh,
while the experience that I gained at that job was world class, and the relationships that I have to this day are forever in my soul, it's simply not possible to survive in any part of the world, really, on $32,000. And I decided to move on. So I sold copy machines for about 5 minutes, and then I sold these rental cars. Sorry. I then went into the medical device industry. So it was great. I had a fantastic run in corporate. I became very quickly addicted to achievement and awards. And I was constantly seeking this like external validation from anywhere I could get it. I didn't have my mom. I'm like, I just need some high fives. And corporate did that for me for a long time until it didn't.
mhm.
And so I got to this point where I was getting more clear on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to develop personally, and how did I see my life going. I knew I wanted to be a mother. My now husband, we were dating. Um, we've been together for 11 years, but
Oh my God.
we were dating, and
Congratulations.
thanks. Yeah, that just passed this week. But um, I started kind of exploring, reading more books, and like, how do I get to where I want to go? Because I'm not even really clear on what that is. And
Mhm.
so I ended up going to a conference, and it was unique in that it wasn't like a specific topic, but somebody had sent me an email, and it was called One Life Fully Lived. This was in October of 2015. And they had like a fitness track, they had real estate investing, they had like meditation. It was interesting. It was like $100, go and
Wow.
spend 3 days at the like DoubleTree or whatever. A lot of coaches there selling their services, which was kind of interesting too. But it was so eye-opening because there were so many people there who wanted to level up, whatever that looks like for
Mhm.
them, for fitness or whatever. So
Mhm.
the long and the short of it was I ended up in a breakout room. Andrew Cushman was speaking. Veronica Cushman was to one side, and then I met my friend Miranda Catch, and I'm listening, and I'm like, holy shit, is this real? Like, people are talking about cash flow and investments and house hacking, and I was so blown away because 20 years ago, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm like, fuck college.
Okay.
I hate school. Like, I really hated, like, I was not a good student. Um, and, my professor in school was like, "Why are you here?" Like at graduation, I'm like, honestly, I think they messed up the paperwork. Like I should shouldn't be here. But real estate made sense when I read that book.
Mhm.
But my mom, who is a realtor, was like, "No, that's not how it works." Okay,
Oh,
well, maybe it doesn't. So fast forward 10, 11 years, and all of these people are telling me like, "Oh, it works." Like, "Yep, I quit my job and I did this and whatever." And I'm like, "Huh, well, that's interesting." So I left and I came home, flew back to San Diego, and I told Daryl, my now husband, I'm like, "I'm going to buy a duplex." And he's like, "Bitch, you have debt, you have bad credit, like good luck." And it was really funny, but I felt really compelled. That made sense to me. And I was so drawn towards the concept of house hacking
mhm.
that I'm like, we're done. We're going to do it. So I, fixed my credit. I went through this whole process, and that was the first property I bought was a duplex by myself. I bought 10 properties by myself,
Oh,
independent of my husband, like me on the loan docs. And I don't say that to like discount his accomplishments
no,
because
yeah.
he's done a lot in real estate. But I think as women, sometimes in my experience, I've kind of downplayed my achievements for the comfort of others. And I don't really want to do that anymore.
Mhm.
But yeah, after we went through the proof of concept exercise, we're like, holy shit, like our mortgage, like our portion is less than the rent on the other
Right.
side. And that was it. We were hooked. But it's a slow and steady process.
Okay. And so that was over, I guess, seven, five, oh, I mean, how many years has it been since
Oh,
2015?
yeah.
8 years now? You built that portfolio up.
Uh, so that property I bought in 2017. So it took me a minute to pay off the debt and
Yeah.
like go through all of the things that I needed in order to purchase that. But so
Okay.
2017 to current.
I I love that. And then after you purchased that first duplex, I mean, it sounds like all of your different careers, it was always sales. It was something that you could work towards or get some sort of commission off of because you were looking for, like you said, that external validation. But when you came out of that masterminds, it almost sounded like you didn't just come out with inspiration. You also found your like internal validation. Like, did you ever feel like you kept seeking that afterwards, or yeah?
Yeah, I still think I do. That's one of my kind of personal goals is to find peace within.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's lifelong work,
Hmm.
uh, to try to get that. But I'll say that having real estate and the freedom of choice
Hmm.
has given me the opportunity to like pause. Like I don't need your approval because you don't pay my bills,
Right.
like to an employer. So that helps a lot. So like in my thing, I'm like, I want every woman to have, FU money
Hmm.
because when you don't need somebody their permission, whether it's a job or like a relationship, literally anything, if you don't need that, your entire existence shifts
Hmm.
in a very positive way.
Oh yeah, it's game changing. And I love that, like you just, like you said, you took those years to prepare yourself. And so during that mindset shift between 2015 and 2017, so you paid off debt, you built up your credit, sounds like, and then right before you bought, like, did you get that fear that everyone gets, but you pushed, or were you excited?
Um, you know, I don't know if it's Sacramento. I love Mikuni, and that's like my draw to Sacramento. But the duplex we bought is there, and the reason we bought it was my sister was sick at the time,
Mhm.
uh, and then everything was focused on like getting up there, taking this new job
Mhm.
and getting a house. So I honestly don't even remember like taking a moment to breathe in that time. So I don't even think I had like a chance to be afraid.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Wow. And then
so
from buying your first duplex, what was the second property after that? Was that out of state?
it was. So the other Miranda, which I mentioned earlier, she was sitting next to me and validated that this is real and this isn't some pyramid scheme or MLM nonsense. Like, this is tangible.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, yeah, I'm out in Kansas City flipping houses. I'm like, no shit. I never thought about that. And at the time, I mean, so in 2015, you can imagine real estate was way different.
Yeah.
Um, and so 2018 is when I felt like comfortable enough to move forward to go out of state. And we bought our first out of state rental. It was $10,000, a couple thousand for closing costs, 15,000 for the renovation. It was bank owned. It, initially rented for $595. It's up to $750 now, but it's the same tenant there since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
When we did a cash out refi, we pulled out almost 70 grand. It's like 69,734 or something. And I was like, wow. And it's
Next
still
level.
cash flows. It's still cash flows, which is crazy. And it's like below market rent, but he's such a wonderful tenant. Anyway, yeah.
And through this whole process, I mean, I'm like looking at your life from the outside. Like, it's amazing, by the way, but just seeing you level up each time and your mindset changing at each level. At any point during those levels, did you ever feel like alone, or like you had to leave your entire old life behind, or were you kind of able to mesh the two? Because I know a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, that's a loaded one. First of all, let me say, don't believe everything you see on the internet. I appreciate the compliment. There are a lot of things in my life that are fan-fucking-tastic, and I love them. But I also have like very high functioning and anxiety and like ADHD, like you wouldn't believe, and other mental health, like grief things that a lot of days, like I am in a fetal position, like crying. Like, so obviously I don't put that on the internet. I mean, I have, but then people are like, why do you put sad stuff on the internet? And I'm like, well, gosh, we just can't win with the internet, I guess.
Right.
So I just want to say that, and even with real estate, right? So I've been trying to be as transparent with the complete poop storm that I've been dealing with this Detroit thing and the implications of having a bad property manager. It's not so black and white. However, like, I do have so many things in my life that I love and I'm grateful for. A lot of those things, most of them, all of them, there's a direct correlation to my mindset. And I guess you asked, like, do you have to leave your old self behind? And yeah, kind of, because if you are growing into this person that you want to become, you're in motion, right? You're moving. You have this vision, like, this is the woman that I know. This is my highest self. And right now I'm like not my best self, when I was before I had my son, we were having a lot of fun and we were, planning, but we were partying all the time and doing all these things, and that was great for the time, but I was like, well, this isn't going to help me achieve any of the goals I have, whether it's personal or professional. It's just going to be like this. Yeah. So I have very limited relationships from my past. And I look at my life in these segments. Anybody from my hometown, they would have bet money that I was going to die. Like, nobody had any kind of high hopes for me. And I don't blame them. Like, I wasn't a very good person. Like, I had a lot of internal grief and rage with a large amount of people in my life who had passed away, and nobody else understood that. So there was no common ground. And so there's like that part of my life. And when I started traveling, I'm like, I want to be better. Like, I want to be a good person. And what does a good person do? Like, how does their life look, and how do they treat others, and how do they speak to themselves? And so when I became that person with all of the things that I could control, the old me died. They were gone. And I don't have any intention of resurrecting that person. And then when you continue to go to the next level, I envision, I'm like, well, if I have have a challenge or something I need to solve. I'm like, well, if I see myself as this person, how would she go about it? How would she handle that? And how can I show up as my highest self for myself, but also for others?
Mm-hmm.
And that has been huge. And so there are some people that will be my lifelong friends that have nothing to do with real estate, that have no kids. You know, a lot of my friends are in real estate and they do have kids or whatever. We have travel in common, for
Mm-hmm.
example. But I think it's part of growing up is if you want to level up, you're going to be around other people who also want to level up. And
Yeah.
I think setting the boundary like, hey, I love you, but your negativity or your mindset or your toxicity, it's exhausting. Like I've had to do that with friends and family. Like I'm trying to live a happy, joyous life. Not to say I won't be there for people if they're sad or going through it, but is it a situation or is it a
Yeah.
pattern? And if it's a pattern, like I do not have the mental capacity to be in that. So that's a very blanket statement in my experience as it relates to real estate or
Mm-hmm.
literally anything in the growing up process, especially having kids. Like having kids, man, I was like, wow, I thought I had some friends before. Nope, they were all gone. Like my
Oh no.
best friend told me, and I haven't talked to her since, and I thanked her for her honest opinion, but I mean, straight up said, she's like, I don't like kids. I don't want to sit on the couch, with you and your family, and, we could grab lunch. And I'm like, hey, appreciate your honesty, but like my kids and my family, they're my whole life, like hard pass. So things like
Yeah.
that kind of happen.
Well, I'll come sit on the couch and watch a movie with your family.
Fine. Thank you.
But literally everything you just said, like it just, I feel like sits very heavy with me because I feel like in that transition of being around, my lifelong friends as well as, being around other investors. And it just, at one point I was so just deep into real estate that I looked up and I was just like, the rest of my life was on fire around me. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's been a little bit of a balancing act. But like when you said like your old person died, and and like to basically rebuild yourself into the person that you want to be and to constantly shift your mind basically and teach yourself how to think differently because that's
Yeah.
basically what you're doing. I mean, it's obviously going to be trial and error and it's going to be a process, but I feel like with each step, you get closer to that person you want to be. It's almost as like they say, dress for the job or act like the person you want to be. It's like you also have to
Yeah.
think that way. And I do find myself a little bit, I guess, kind of grieving my old self once in a while, to be honest. And it's not that I don't love where I am and I love my progress. Like I'm obsessed with real estate and I have a passion for it and helping other people learn it. But there are harder days than others where I'm just like, especially on like the really stressful days. And I'm like, kind of miss, my old life, just chilling at the lake with
Yeah.
my friends, just all day doing nothing when I was younger, But it's like, obviously, I wouldn't give up my life now for that, but I do feel like I get little whiffs of, okay, I kind of miss that part of me. But also, I'm proud of who I am, and it's just like this conflicting, like this
Yeah.
constant conflict. I feel like inside of me, of like missing or like grieving the person that I was, but also happy that I'm changing the person that I want to be. And it's causes a lot of anxiety
But I think
because
it's normal.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
nobody really talks about it.
Mhm.
Like that's just part of growing up. Like when you're young and you're going to the lake and drinking a 12 pack and, wakeboarding, like when you probably shouldn't even be, allowed to be in public. It's such a carefree time.
Yeah,
But you can get back to that too. It looks
yeah.
different, because your money, you're gonna have resources to do cooler shit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it's nice to know. It's nice to see people like investors like you who have been through the process and have come out the other side, happy and proud. Like, do you feel proud of where you are today? Because I feel like you should be. Oh my God, you're gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me cry.
I do feel proud because it felt impossible for so long. And I was like brainwashing myself. Um, I'm really grateful for Daryl and my dad because they always have been in my court encouraging me. Um, but it's been really hard too because I mean, I didn't share this part, but my sister also passed my mom and sister passed of breast cancer. And so, when you go through something like that, and like, especially like my mom, like she was my person, your cheerleader. And it's like, you always kind of wonder, like, would she be proud? I didn't think I was going to cry today, but that's okay. This is kind of, Daryl says I cry too much anyway. I mean, I cry a lot. So when you're like, oh, your life looks great on the outside, I'm like, I cry like 15 times a day. But I am proud. I am really proud when I look at who I was and how my life looks today. And I know one of your things was like mindset and wanting to talk about that. And it's just so much deeper than just real estate. Like real estate is the vehicle, but that's just one component, for me to have the time and the freedom and the relationships, like it's important to stress, like, yeah, I lost a lot of friends over the years. Most of them, like, were they great friends? Like, I don't know, like, yeah, we hung out and partied together, but the people that are in my life today are so solid and like connected to my soul, and they're good people, and I have these amazing children and this amazing husband, and like my mother-in-law moved here to back to Georgia today, and I feel so fortunate for all of these things, but it's 100% like the outcome, I guess, of having a mindset, like, I don't know if you like what personal development books you've read or like anything with Louise L. Hay or anything from Hay House, but it's like the one I'm reading right now is it's called Worthy. And, how do we speak to ourselves and like the importance of language, right? And it's like, I am enough. I found this journal that I had. I was looking through it this morning and like writing down, like, I am enough. Like, I'm worthy. Like, I can do this. And like, I didn't believe that, but I just kept writing it. And like, how can I feel that way? So that's part of the external and internal, right? Because it didn't matter how many awards I got. Like, I just still was like, meh, whatever. It's not good enough. It's not good enough, But now my pride comes from the person I've become more so, and like the relationships that I built and the way that I show up every day as a friend, as a mother, as a wife, as a woman, instead of like, yeah, I have these rental properties. That's cool, but like that's just one piece of it.
One piece of it, yeah.
So
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing all of that.
yeah,
I'm
sorry, this
sorry.
is a
Sorry.
lot. I'm like, hey, let's just go run the gamut of emotion today.
Sorry, I cried, and I'm sorry for making you
No,
cry, but also like it's
I
like it's emotional. It's very overwhelming, and especially like just seeing like I only been seeing a piece of it from your social media, just knowing you for this small amount of time, and just I feel like I can just feel that all of the emotions from you, and seeing everything that you've built and have had to go through, because I know people close to me who have had to go through a lot of that too. So I feel you.
yeah,
And
no,
I'm proud of you. So
oh, thank you. And thank you for saying that, and thank you for just giving me, the space to be honest. I think a lot of times, well, especially on social media, it's like just such a snippet, but when I think of the emotion and like even the emotional response that I just had, it's like energy and motion. That is emotion. But as impossible as it felt, any time that I would put myself in the headspace of like, well, what would it look like if I could resign from my corporate job and like live, right?
yeah.
And it evoked this extreme sense of like, oh my God, like, like chest clenching, gasping for air
Mm-hmm.
emotion. And so I think that's a really critical component of the visualization. Whether you believe it or not, like eventually you'll start to believe it, but that has been really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who does like visualization,
Mm-hmm.
affirmation, meditation, whatever, but like really feel that,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I just started journaling, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because I feel
What
like
do
you
you,
sometimes you feel things and then you just kind of let it go, and then you
yeah,
don't, but when you write it down, I feel like it just kind of becomes a little bit more permanent, or you just, it's like I've processed it and then now I've let it go on paper, but I can always revisit that time and then reflect on myself and
yeah,
what my goals are, what my thoughts. I mean, you can think a bunch of things, but those thoughts just come and go so often. But if you write down your thoughts, I just feel like it sticks so much
yeah.
better.
What kind of like, do you just do a blank journal or do you do prompts? Like, what kind of journaling do
uh
you do?
just blank. Like I'll just, if I feel like I need a journal that day, which I don't do it every day, but I'll do it like 3 to 4 times a week. I'll just kind of open up the book and write whatever I'm thinking,
Yeah,
feeling, just to kind of like reflect on that day and just be like, okay, I'm thinking this way, but is this the way I should be thinking? And kind of check myself, like, okay, do I need to be thinking a different way? Or is my future
yeah.
self, the person that I want to be, would they be thinking differently than how I'm thinking now?
Mm, mm,
And just to kind
mm.
of like dive deep to see if I need to transition that thinking at all, or if I'm already
Yeah, yeah,
hold myself accountable.
yeah. Well, that's really interesting. So I noticed a big shift occurred when I changed my thinking. So, for example, like as an employee, you're like, oh, give me this. I need this, right? Or that's how I was. Like that's how and then going into leadership, it's like give. Like I got to support my team, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like do anything just for the sake of retention and like having a cohesive unit,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then I began thinking, I'm like, well, how would the owner of this business, what, like, how would they look at
Yeah.
this holistic, thing, whether it's the team or the employee or the whatever aspect? And so the way you're describing your journaling and just, that's really cool. I've been doing kind of a similar,
Yeah.
how
So
would,
do you use formats and stuff, or do you just kind of on a blank one as well?
uh, I have 6 journals that I write in.
Fixed or
When I get 6, yeah, one's like a gratitude journal, one's
oh,
blank,
okay.
one has like some other kind of checklists in it and prompts. But that's my quiet time. So if I wake up and it's still dark and I have a cup of coffee, like I can
Mm-hmm.
write in my little books. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I've thought about like even putting them all together and like finding someone, some manufacturer in China that could like mass produce them because I think that'd probably be a lot easier to carry around one book. We'll
Yeah.
see.
That'd be
So
cool. Let me know if you're able to do
yeah,
that.
I mean, yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, I have a funny. This will crack you up. When I was on maternity leave, I was like so stir crazy and had crazy sleep deprivation and postpartum. So I don't know even how it came up, but I ended up sourcing some products from China for the Bufa butt loofah. It's a discrete silicone disc dedicated to digging out the doo-doo for you without smearing it all over you. And it was a butt scrubber. And so I share that. I did learn a lot about manufacturing and importing goods from China. Once I like came out of my postpartum haze, I'm like, well, now we have a fucking lifetime supply of butt scrubbers.
Oh my
And I
god.
don't want to do anything with this, but all right. Uh, so I should revisit that for the journal. I think that'd be a cool way to for myself. If anyone else wants one, cool. But just
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And then what advice would you give someone in the transition period from kind of shifting their mindset from W-2 job employee to wanting to pursue real estate investing full time?
Yeah, I think you have to do what's right for you. And there are so many people out there that are going to tell you their way is the best way, But the reality is, all of us are so unique, and our needs are going to be unique to us. We have individual needs, whether it's, I have two kids, or, whatever the dynamic is. And
Mhm.
so I think, first off, saying what is going to serve you and your highest good, or whomever, right? Real estate investing is a fantastic tool. It's literally life changing.
Mhm.
But how do you feel, you meaning whomever is watching this, when you look at that from a full-time perspective, right? My like 2008 trauma is somewhat, sorry. I had someone tell me today I was stupid for doing what I'm doing, not working. You really do know what's best for you. Yeah. And also, is that person paying your bills? Like, I'm highly annoyed that anybody would tell you that.
Yeah.
But I think that's common. I didn't talk about real estate for so long because so many people would try to tell me, like, no, like, that's not how it works. I mean, even my own
Mm-mm.
mother, who is a realtor, when I'm like, the gaslighting, I'm like, man, does it work? Does it not work? I'm like I see these checks coming in the bank. Like, I must be missing something. Um, so I'll start with that. You need to do what's best for you. What was best for me is not going to be best for everybody.
Mhm.
But the reality is, most people don't love their job. I know very few people in my entire life network who absolutely, truly, passionately love what they do within the corporate sphere.
Mhm.
And so, if you're one of those people, I think it's important to establish an exit strategy, much like any business, whether it's going public, if it's a startup, or an acquisition, or a merger, whatever. What does that look like for you, right?
Mhm.
If somebody's like, I'm comfortable being in my, 9 to 5 or my 8 to 6, whatever your hours are, until I'm 90, great, do that. The stability isn't as stable as we think. We all know layoffs happen. We're all
Mhm.
keenly aware of the egregious inflation that we are facing. But for those who are like, I know real estate is going to be the vehicle for me,
Mhm.
how do I transition? And what does that look like? And when do I make that call? If you have a high risk tolerance and you have some sort of safety net in place, then perhaps you can dedicate more time. For example, if someone's living in their parents' basement and their expenses are covered, right?
Mhm.
But with costs of just living and breathing, do you want to put yourself in a situation where you're like, oh shit, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills. I don't know how I'm going to pay rent or my mortgage or buy food. Like, I've been there. I've been to a point where I had literally $26 in cash to my name and rent was due in 3 days. I'm like driving all over town, picking up people's free shit on Craigslist, selling it at the swap, like doing crazy things. I mean, really understanding the value of a dollar, putting myself in rather questionable situations fairly often, but you don't have to do that. If you're in your W-2 and like, I want to have X properties, I think the magic number is 10, but it can be different for
Mhm.
everybody. The reason I say 10 is because with a W-2 job, you can carry up to 10 Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae loans. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to do this. I'm not, whatever, but whatever disclaimer language I need. But if you can commit to going through that exercise and then transitioning and quitting with 10 properties, if you're properly underwriting your deals, your basics should be covered. If they're not, then like call me. Let's look at the numbers and maybe
Mhm.
reevaluate your investment strategy. But I didn't have the comfort level to leave until I knew the basics were covered.
Okay.
I also need to be transparent in saying I left a $220,000 job. I'm not making that in real estate. I will, but I made a choice because I got to a crossroads and said, even if they paid me unlimited amounts of money, I'm traveling so much, and I have since my kids were born. Like, I, COVID was kind of slow, but I'm never
Mhm.
going to get that time back.
Yeah.
And if I've been able to incrementally scale with having a very busy job and 2 kids, is it worth my time to continue going in these increments? Or do I have comfort in knowing that regardless of circumstance, the basics are covered? The house, the cars, a little bit of food, probably not Whole Foods, but like the basics are covered, right?
Yeah.
And that is what I needed. And some people are like, no, I'm not going to leave until I have replaced my corporate salary. And that works for them. But the time that I now am able to devote to real estate full time far outweighs staying at the same, I had the same salary for 4 years. Like the raises were like not, not, the math wasn't mathing. So the way I see it is a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. But that decision is so personal, and I get really flustered when these like gurus and coaches, and like I hate to roll my eyes and cringe because I like put my thing as coach for my course. I'm like, oh, my eyes are gonna roll out of my head. But that's really the best way to describe it. But I feel like people are so gung-ho to do it their way. And there is no right way. There are so many billions of combinations of ways to do this.
Yeah.
So I would encourage anybody who is considering transitioning, it's a very long-winded answer. What is your goal? What does that look like in like the most vivid detail? How long are you giving yourself to achieve that, right? So what do you want and when do you want it by? And you're like, I need 10 doors, or I want 10 doors, and I need to have, net cash flow, $500 a door, whatever. And you're going to do it in 2 years or whatever time frame and do that, right?
I love that. So I feel like you just answered my last question all in one with the transition thing, because my last question was going to be, should someone quit their W-2? But I feel like you just, covered that with saying it's a personal decision. You gotta choose your goal, choose your timeline, choose what that looks like in your eyes with a very, very vivid vision and having the details written out, and just figure out your goal, and like what people say, work backwards and figure out how long that's going to take, and then create a game plan, and then that's your answer.
Yeah, and I think visualizing what does it look like both ways, right? So if somebody is, for example, not having any cash flow and they don't live with their parents, well, how are you going to float those bills, right? And is that going to compromise your integrity? Because as much as I love people, I want to believe everybody's like kumbaya, blah blah blah. When people are up against the wall, backs up against the wall, and they get into a self-preservation mode, sometimes they make questionable decisions. Sometimes they make, it just isn't, it's just different when you come from a place of like, wow, now I have this money and I can do these things and this is great. And so if you are in a W-2 and you're able to leverage that, whether it's getting a raise, going to another company, in turn, getting a raise, however you're going to achieve that while concurrently executing on your goals. But it needs to be on the forefront of your mind every day. I'm not saying that's easy because it's a lot, like mentally. But I would say it's based on personal preference and risk tolerance.
And you said you had, because I know you said you wanted it to cover your basics. So does that mean you had basically a savings, a little nest egg to cover you those basics for a certain amount of months? And if so, how many months was that for you?
Oh, no, like my monthly cash flow. Like
okay.
Yeah. So hard to see for myself. Ricardo, I don't know if I understand. Hard to see for myself with that same money, Joanna. Thanks for that perspective. So yeah, I have savings, but when I say like the basics are covered, like monthly cash flow, like these are my bills, like this is my mortgage, this is, my car payment, which previously my company paid, and now I'm like, oh man, I still have 3 years on the car payment, right? Um, yeah, like health insurance, right? Like things that they're like our daily living expenses, right? But like food, water, shelter, like you
Mhm.
have to be able to eat, you have to have a roof over your head. Otherwise, like it's scary. I mean, and if people want to do it and they're like, I'm going all in, burning the boats, burning the bridges, great. Like I admire that. I will be rooting for you. That gives me like literal panic attacks. Like I'm sweating just thinking about it.
McKenna, if you're still on, that's McKenna right there. I don't know if she's still in here. She quit her W-2 job and is moving to Dallas to pursue real estate
That's
investing.
awesome. And so
And she was just going
I'm
all in.
curious, like what does that look like, right? Like how do you like how does that work? I have so many questions.
I know she had a certain amount saved up. McKenna, are you still on? No, she's still on, or you're not. But what was cool is that after she quit her job, she went to a real estate conference, and then she was part of Sub 2 as well. But she came into contact with someone, and they loved her story about quitting her job, with moving to Dallas to pursue real estate investing with no job lined up, and they brought her on to their team. So
That's
now she's a part of a
awesome.
one's real estate investing team and
Yeah.
to be a closer. But
Okay, like wholesaling, like acquisitions, or
I
I
think so. I don't
mean,
want to speak for her because I'm not
yeah,
100%
no
sure on
worries.
the details,
No,
but
it's okay.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I
Some people can do that. Some people can just do it. Just cut it off and jump all in.
So Ricardo, I just saw that comment that you had. Yeah, and if you can jump all in, I mean, I'll tell you what, I made a pretty big mistake. I resigned from my so I let me back up. I had a double mastectomy in January because of my mom's and sister's situation. I have a genetic mutation. Like it's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
I had I was really grateful for it. Like most people probably didn't have the same mindset and outlook on going into something like that. But once I got on the other side of that, and I really had to sit and evaluate whether I was going to go back to work, and it was either going to be a hell yes or a hell no, and it was more like a fuck no, like no way, like I cannot. My body just went through this really big thing. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot even fathom dealing with that. 2 years ago, everything was great with the company. I had fantastic leadership. Like I reported directly to our CCO. He was amazing, amazing. What really empowered me to find my voice. But he also was like, get out, like get out while you can, because once you get to my level, like you're stuck. Like the lifestyle creep is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Really is.
hits, like it just comes in. It's so sneaky. And in a lot of ways, I'm grateful for some aspects of lifestyle creep, because then you're like elevating your expectation of how you want things to look around you.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally lost my train of thought on what I was saying about that. But oh yeah, the mistake that I made. So I resigned, and I'm like, I've have sales background. Like I'm going to start wholesaling property. Mind you, I know like this much about wholesaling. Conceptually, it makes sense, but I've never done it. So I make my signs. I tell the internet that I'm in a wholesale, and a very dear friend of mine calls me. She's like, "You should come work for me," and I'm like, "I'd love to work for you. I love you." And I got myself. I was probably honestly still high on pain pills because this was like right after my surgery, and I agreed to this um, role, and I was really ambitious, thinking that I could bake it in despite having a lot of other irons in the fire, and I immediately, my body was like, no, like this is 8 hours a day, this is like taking you away from everything else, like
Mm-hmm.
they're getting the best of you, and the rest is just the rest of you. I heard someone say that recently, and I'm probably saying it wrong, but I really liked that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was difficult and a huge fail. But I called her like after the first week. I'm like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Like I can't do this, and Yeah.
That was before. I remember the first time we talked, you were telling me that you were going to be joining a wholesaling team.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we followed up on that. So
Yeah, that
that
wasn't
just
for
it took too
me.
much time. What was
It
that?
just, it just wasn't for me. It was the
Yeah.
time. And I think, you know, even a few years ago, I probably would have been like all in for it. But as my skill set has developed, kind of how you're talking about, like you grow, right? Whether it's in your personal life or professional. And it's like, am I going to be on the phones cold calling people?
Hmm.
No, I'm going to hire somebody to do
Hmm.
that. And I'm going to build and effectively manage and lead the team to do it. And
Yeah.
so that was a big aha moment for
Hmm.
myself to say, where can I be of most service?
Hmm.
Whether that's training or coaching or mentoring
Yeah.
individuals instead of, spending 8 hours a day on the phones, which is for me
Yeah.
exhausting. Like a lot of
I mean, you
talking.
exactly. I mean, you found what your priorities were, and then you stuck to it. And there are so many different avenues in real estate that you can try. But if you don't go out and try them, you probably wouldn't have known that. Like you said, you
Right.
thought wholesaling was going to be great, thought it was going to meet like your needs, and you're going to still have a bunch of time. And then you actually go out and do it, and then the reality hits you of what that job entails and like the requirement time requirements of it, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh. But I think that says a lot about you that you immediately as soon as you realized that wasn't for you, you came forward and
Oh,
you spoke
that
your opinion.
sucked.
And
That was
that
hard.
is like it's hard, but honestly I think that's the most respectful thing you can do, because if you had known that it wasn't right for you and stayed in it, it would have wasted even more of their
Yeah.
time and your time,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's the most
I did not want to
disrespectful
do
thing you
that.
can do.
Yeah, I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm so sorry. They were very understanding, and I would recommend them to anybody who's looking. If anyone's interested in wholesaling, DM me and I'll get you in touch. But
Mm-hmm.
they're a fantastic team. I learned a lot in that week. But Ricardo, so everyone, so okay, so let me go back about the time. So the time perspective I think is really important because in my scenario, I traveled almost every single week until COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
So pregnant didn't matter. Like I was like barely walking after a C-section, like on a plane to the East Coast. Like it was crazy. So I think it matters about how much time do you have. There are 1,440 minutes in a day, right? Can you carve out 60 of those minutes per day to grow your real estate business? If the answer is no, then I think it's time to reevaluate. But if you're looking at it more so of if you can focus on it full time, well, then how long is it going to take you to replace that salary instead of that 60-minute increment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, Ricardo, about ever run into any problems with loan products without the job? So I brought up the 10 Freddie Mac Fannie Mae loans. Sorry, I'm trying to clear this text. Um, I don't know who's watching this. I don't know what the legalities are, and I'm not giving financial advice. So whatever disclosure it is. So the properties that I purchased were conventional loans, um, the Freddie Mac Fannie Mae loans. Once you get beyond and you're looking at different properties, there are several different types of loans. For example, a DSCR loan, which is debt service coverage ratio. And to me, after having gone through this process of conventional financing and getting a DSCR loan, was mind boggling because they basically were like, sign this one piece of paper and we are going to give you this house. It was insane to me. And I'm like, wait a minute. The rates are higher. There are other terms. Like it's not so like it's an easy process, but it's looking at the cost of it. If you have your W-2 and you are going through that, like you might as well get the loans because you're going to get favorable terms on your traditional
Mm-hmm.
conventional financing. I
Mm-hmm.
also need to stress always negotiate your rate. I don't care what anybody says. I have every time I've applied for a loan, I have a little folder on my desktop. I already know what they're going to ask for, whether it's my bank statements, my tax returns, like my firstborn and a DNA sample, like it's all there. But then when the offer is accepted, so three lenders, three quotes for anything in life. I don't know. I just feel like it. I don't know. I think I also like to debate and negotiate and like really feel like I'm getting a deal, but that's a personal problem.
Skill, you mean skill.
It's, my husband hates going in public with me. He's like, please just like, I don't know her. And I'm like, I've saved us like thousands of dollars. So it's worth being a little awkward, you know? But but if you are going to go through that loan process, Ricardo, you want to make sure to have all your documents. Once your offer is accepted, you're going to go from lender A and you're going to say, hey, this is, or lender A to lender B, you're going to say, hey, this is my, rate lock. This is what they're offering me. Great. Can you beat it? And then you're going to go in a circle until you get back to A. And then you're going to say, hey, this is what they're offering me. Always make sure to look at apples to apples. Can you beat it? Right. And I don't know enough about loans outside of my personal experience to know how this works, or, I know they, sometimes they'll build on points or whatever, but it's pretty amazing how, we've gotten the rate down. So I do want to talk to a lender about that. Like, are they just like when you buy a car, it's like, here's the sticker price, here's the suggested value of your loan.
Mm-hmm.
But I should probably further explore that. But nonetheless, negotiate your rate, negotiate literally everything that you can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but once you have exhausted your 10 Freddie Mac Fannie Mae loans, there is a world of financing out there that is going to be, you will learn it. It's like building the foundation, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at commercial lending or DSCR, there are a lot of different loan products.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it that way. And I think refining your strategy. So all of our properties are long-term rentals. I'm going to be dipping my toe into the midterm um, thing right now.
Oh.
So that business model, with conventional financing makes sense. But you can explore short-term, midterm. There's so many avenues you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you.
private money, hard money. I mean, yeah, Ricardo, yeah, PM me, DM me, whatever it's called, and yeah, I can walk you through that.
Yes. Private money's the goal, right?
Well, that's, I have been trying to lend on some deals, and I have, a little bit of money. I'm like, well, it's sitting there, like waiting for a deal to come, and
Mm-hmm.
what does this look like? And it's it's been a unique experience. Like yesterday, I was talking to this guy. I'm like, man, this deal sounds really good. I'm going to give you $3,500 for 30 days. You're going to give me that plus 1750 back. But as I'm kind of asking some questions, I'm like, so like, if it's a fix and flip, how are you going to pay me back? He's like, well, I'm going to tell my lender, hard money lender, that I need $8,000, but I only really need five to do whatever repairs. But I'm going to give you, the difference. I'm like, well, if you're comfortable lying to your lender, you're most certainly comfortable lying to me.
Right.
So that's not going to
Mm-hmm.
work. And really quickly seeing people's moral flexibility or willing to compromise their integrity I've seen in the lending space. And I've heard some crazy stories, not to say that it isn't there, and it is available for both parties involved, whether you're borrowing private money or whether you're lending private money.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to do your due diligence. If you don't feel confident in your ability to conduct your due diligence, reach out to me, reach out to Melissa Palmer. That's like literally her job, is to help investors go through
Yeah.
due diligence as lenders. I think that there are a lot of resources out there that will support you. And I know, Ricardo, like you'll get there. You will get there.
He's actually under contract right now for an
Yeah.
out of state property. His first
Awesome.
out of state property.
I love that. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Giving you a little
That's
shout out, Ricardo.
really cool.
I met him at a real estate meetup
Oh, no
in
way.
San Jose. Yeah,
That's
he's here in
fun.
Roseville too.
What a small world.
I
But
know, is that crazy?
I grew up in Fair Oaks, Ricardo. That was like before, like Rockland was like a field. And now it's like prime real estate. But congratulations. That's really cool.
That's what me and Joanna bonded over at first.
Well,
We first bonded over.
I'm going to be selling that duplex, and I'm like, well, maybe I can go and assess the property and expense my trip so I could go and have me cooning. But
Oh,
yeah, we'll figure it out.
I did. She said she forced me to speak. I forced him to speak at the meetup
Oh, that's
about his
good.
action items. I called him out,
I love it.
and he did.
Well,
He
yeah,
accomplished it.
that's huge, but I really admire how like both of you and just are putting yourselves out there in the online space. Like it's really inspiring to watch and it's cool.
Thank you. I mean,
So,
you are so inspiring yourself. I mean, I remember when we first had that first phone call. You had just like deleted everything off
ah,
your social media, and then now I like looked at your social media page. You had like 40 posts. You doubled the amount of followers you've had.
oh my
Like you are killing
gosh,
it.
that's so funny. Well, I I don't know what I'm doing, but I figured I'm just gonna like throw it at the wall and see what sticks for now.
Mm-hmm.
I see the value in social media, and like I've made a lot of friends like you through social media, which I think probably would have felt really foreign to me pre-COVID, but that was a big shift. So it's really neat. I have deleted social media many times, and part of that has been like the personal growth, like what distractions can I eliminate?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any social media for like a year, over a year during COVID. And so that was when I was like really grinding and doubling down, like what do I need to do to get to that
Yeah.
level? And is this helping me achieve my goal or not? And then it's like, okay, whatever. But now I think my social media is a little bit different, because I have left corporate. I feel like I can kind of show up as my authentic self and like say whatever crazy shit comes out of my mouth, and it's like I don't really care if the board sees this because I don't work there anymore. So like whatever, having that creative space, but also I very sincerely want to empower women, working moms, people in general, but I really struggled being a new working mom in corporate America. The
Mm-hmm.
system is inherently broken and it's very suffocating, always having to explain, like, well, what are your childcare arrangements? And blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
my performance clearly hasn't been impacted by this. Like, go away, just go away, right? But knowing that there is another path and we can build our own tables, we can do our own thing, and we can
Mm-hmm.
thrive in life, however that looks for you, but it's just different. So that's why I've spent more time on social media. I feel morally obligated to share all of the things that I've learned since 2015. There's a lot in my brain, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to like download it and get it out. But I have written a course. I am going to be launching
Yeah.
that, and it's specific to how to leverage your W-2 to get started because most people like don't have the balls to just quit and move to Texas. I admire that deeply. That's awesome. But that's like unicorn, right? Like most of us
Mm-hmm.
still are like, well, yeah, we got to wake up and here we go. And that meeting should have been an email, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, so tell us a little bit about your course. You said so it's focused on helping moms quit their W-2.
Yeah. Well, not quit necessarily, but to kickstart their portfolio,
Okay.
right? I mean, who am I to ever tell anybody to quit their job? If they like it or they love it, or maybe that like peace of mind and steady paycheck helps. But I think it's really important for women, specifically moms, to have options.
Mm-hmm.
So, this whole like, oh, money is the root of all evil and more money, more problems. Like, we just have different problems. Like I've had poor people problems and I've had money problems, and like I will choose money problems all
Right.
day long. Like I hated being poor. There was one time I was literally arguing over a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with my boyfriend, like during the whole '08 thing. Like it was bleak.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and how many women, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had friends who have like gone through divorce or like had lost a spouse. One of my friends, her husband died. He was 32 and one of her children is special needs, and her other baby was 3 months old. And nobody plans for that because you're 30 and you're young. But the reality is, like, seeing my mom and my sister pass, I think has made me hyper aware of life can happen at any
Yeah.
time. So, what can we do to mitigate our risk and
Mhm.
prepare ourselves to be financially stable, right? Like, we got catapulted into this because when I was just coming off maternity leave, like, Daryl was laid off. We're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
now what, right? Um, so the course is really about that. Like how, what are your options? What does that look like? What are the different strategies, right? I've never done a course, so it's like I'm trying to put it all like this is how I think it makes sense. But I am going to be looking for feedback, right? And if there's something I need to do a second course or a deeper dive on, like I'm happy to do it. But I'm not, this isn't like a money making project. Like I'm, I want to put this out there and, you know, cover my, internet or website fee, and like that's it. Like if you
Mhm.
get something out of it, great. But I think of that conference that I went to. It was $100. It was $100 for 3 days, and that weekend literally changed the course
Mhm.
of my life. So
2015 money.
yeah, in 2015 money. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well, I applaud you because courses are a lot of work. So the fact that you're going through that process and putting in so much work, and I mean, you can tell how passionate you are through the way you speak about it. And I think that just shows how great it's going to be. So I'm excited for it to come out.
Oh, well,
And
thank
I'm definitely going to
you.
be signing up for it. And I agree with Hillary. She says, "You're a rock star, Joanna. So much value to share, and your authenticity resonates with people more than you realize."
I
I
don't see where any of that is listed, but thank you for saying that. I love Hillary. For the month of March, anybody who signed, like it's, Women's History Month, and I'm like pro women, women's empowerment. But anybody who goes to, if you go to my Instagram, it's probably listed. I don't, maybe it's listed here, maybe it's not, but like click on whatever. It's Joanna Carolina Berry. Um, I put a little link in there. So anyone who signs up for the wait list, like I'll send it to you for free. Like this is important for me to share. What you do with it is ultimately your responsibility. But I think one of my goals is showing up for others the way that I needed somebody to show up for me. But this,
yeah.
it's like pre-internet, like, or it wasn't used like this,
Hmm.
like it was just different back then.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
yeah,
Motivation right there is, I see the drive in you, and I'm excited to see when it comes out.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
go
think
join the
I
wait
think
list.
yeah, well, yeah, it's on a wait list. I'm having another surgery for my reconstruction. Womp womp womp. But I'm excited to get it over with. So I am a little bit on the fence on the actual launch date because I want to make sure that when I push that button, I want to be a resource to others and not like on my couch, you know.
You are literally the definition of a badass. Just like you know, if anyone doesn't know, we were actually scheduled to do this live next week, and we rescheduled to this week because her surgery got moved up. But she had her pre-op today, and she still came to this live, sharing all of this amazing information with all of us after she had her pre-op done. I mean, that's just, if that's not the definition of badass, I don't know what it is.
I
So.
think it's called ADHD, like unmedicated. Uh, but no, I
Well,
appreciate you.
you're amazing. And you've given so much value to this live. Is there anything that you want to tell the audience that you are looking for or in need of that we can somehow help you with? Because you've just given us so much. I want to help you.
Oh, oh no, I appreciate it. I want people to listen to their internal, like their intuition, right? Whatever that's telling you, listen to that. I ignored that voice for entirely too long, and I listened to other people, and I like stopped doing things because I'm like, oh yeah, if you said it, like that must be true, right? But if anybody like hits you with any naysaying, like just put on your headphones. Don't listen to them. Um,
Yeah.
what I need is to continue to see the community grow. And I want to see other women in positions of power and redefining what success looks like. Because trying to fit into this corporate structure as a mother and like leaning in, like, no, it doesn't work.
Mhm.
It was built on the premise of a man with a wife at home from like whenever Mad Men was written or filmed, or that, it's antiquated. And so yeah, that's what I need. I need to see more women showing up, kicking ass, taking names, doing the damn thing, exactly what you're doing. You are doing it. You are giving me what I need by continuing to have these not podcast, whatever the hell this is called,
Lives.
the live, that is going to inspire true and meaningful change, because when we as women, I'm not sexist, like I love men, I love my husband, like I've worked with amazing men, but I think to truly balance the tables, when we have control of our finances and our financial future, our decisions in every single category of our life will change,
Mhm.
because we are coming from a place of power. And
Yeah.
that to me is that's what I need. I need to see some real change in this world, not this like incremental growth. We're not doing 2x. What is it? 10x is easier than 2x. Let's 10x.
Yes.
Go. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Let's all be
You heard it here,
rich.
everyone. Go out and be badasses and put your earmuffs on.
Yeah. Blinders, earmuffs, whatever it takes. 10x it.
Yes, I love that. That's
Yeah.
something to live by. I mean, I've read part of it, but I still need to finish the book. But
Yeah.
it's definitely game changing.
Yeah. I really like Dan Sullivan and his partner who actually writes the books, and I forgot his name, but really good books. I think just to, in closing, I know we're probably like way over time, and I also have to pick up my kids. But I do want to say thank you, and I do want to say, we only have one life, right? And so the title, it's so ironic because the title of that conference I went to, I saw the sticker on my notebook. It's One Life Fully Lived, right? Um, Obviously, I had a lot of therapy, but like having lost my mom and my sister and countless other individuals made me so aware of that. And I'm not trying to say this to be morbid, but
Uh-huh.
what are you waiting for? Not you specifically, Miranda, but anybody. Like,
Yeah,
what is holding you back
yeah.
from living your biggest and fullest and most amazing, epic bucket shit list life? Like, whatever that is, do that,
Hmm.
because we're going to die.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm working in the medical field. I think about death every day. It's just it's coming, and any of those small reasons that we think are holding us back, they don't matter in the end. I mean, eventually you're going to get to a point, and you're going to look back, and you're going to think, why didn't I do this?
yeah,
Think about yourself in 20 years. When you look back, are
yep,
these things going to matter, or are these things going to be the reason why you say, oh, I wish I didn't do that because of
right,
this? Looking back, oh, that didn't matter. It's
right.
all about perspective, and
Yeah.
you're
Well, just
amazing.
ask yourself,
Yeah.
like, even if it feels impossible, how can I? How? Like, and I think that just like, yeah. Anyway, thank you.
Well,
Very
thank you so
appreciative.
much for coming on and sharing all of this. Everyone, go sign up for our course. You're amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much again for
you.
coming on.
Oh, thank you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Yes,
Have a good
absolutely.
day. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. How do I get out of here? Oh.
Top right X.
Okay.